Mr. Chairman, I'll let you know when you can begin, okay?
I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't hear that.
I'll let you know when you can begin. Just 1 more minute here while everybody's signing in.
Okay, very good.
Okay, you may begin. We are recording. You might want to remind everybody to keep muted until they need to speak, okay?
Okay, very good. All right, so everybody just keep muted unless you have the floor. I'd like to call this meeting of the Folcroft Borough Council to order at 7:02 p.m. on September the 15th, 2020. I'd like to mention before we begin that we did have an executive session prior to this meeting regarding personnel issues and the additions to our highway department. I'd like to turn it over to the mayor for the flag salute and invocation.
Take a moment, as we've been doing for the people that are contacting COVID. Take a moment for them. Okay, Joe's the flag around. Can you turn that camera to it or not? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which
Stands.
nation
under God,
Under God.
indivisible, liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Let me get back into my agenda here. So let's move to Andrew, if you could do the roll call, please.
Council President Papaleo,
Present.
Councilman Kyle Willis,
Present.
Councilwoman Lee Daly,
Present.
Councilman Nick Waters,
Present.
Councilwoman Melinda Isaac,
Present.
Councilman Jason McGuigan,
Here.
Councilman Robert Ruskowski,
Also here.
Mayor Bob Fry,
Here.
Alex,
Present.
and I'm here.
All right, on to audience participation.
There was no audience participation for this meeting.
Okay, moving on to the application of Robert Miller from Beaconland for a change in non-conforming use for the property located at 1498 Delmar Drive. I'd like to just, before we begin, if I could, Robert, I think you're on the call. Would it be okay if we could ask that you guys would be able to consider committing to hiring some Folcroft people for the staffing at this location?
I mean, our developer's already indicated he made that clear to 7-Eleven. This is an interesting situation because it's not a franchisee, it's a 7-Eleven store. The developer signs a 15-year lease with them, so it's right to corporate 7-Eleven. And of course, it's in their best interest to do it anyhow because you can walk there in a snowstorm. So we had this discussion, I believe, with Andrew and a couple of other individuals on your team there earlier, that they will certainly go make an effort to do that.
Okay, all right. Did we
That was
want to give
Bob
you?
Lynn speaking for the record. Sorry,
Okay.
Bob Lynn speaking for the record.
Okay, very good. So can we, do we have a presentation for council or?
I have a very, very brief, like 2 minutes, if you'd like me to do it. I could do a screen share with you and show you some images if they were helpful. I know you have some hard copies. I think Alex and Andrew both have hard copies, but would it help you if you looked at a couple images on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
And Bob, actually, before we proceed, let me just give, because, obviously members of the public are going to watch this live or they can view it later. Let me give a little background on what's going on here and fill in the blanks if I'm incorrect on what's going on. But essentially, before the council tonight is an application for a change in non-conforming use. So essentially, the property at issue here, 1498 Delmar Drive, currently exists under the zoning ordinance as a quote-unquote non-conforming use, meaning at one time when the property was developed, it was developed in accordance with the current zoning ordinance. Subsequently, the zoning ordinance was changed, and now it does not fit the parameters of that new zoning ordinance provision. So rather than going back through conditional use or going back to the zoning hearing board for variances to develop a new portion of that project, there is a provision in your zoning ordinance, which is 600-54, which allows an applicant that has a pre-existing non-conforming use property to submit an application to the Borough Council for approval for a new non-conforming use. There's a couple of criteria that hopefully will be elucidated here through the presentation, but the applicant is going to have to demonstrate that the non-conforming use cannot be reasonably changed to a conforming use. The applicant is going to have to show that the proposed change will not increase external effects more than the existing non-conforming use, or will be more appropriate than the existing non-conforming use with regards to, and there's a couple of sub-criteria: traffic generation and congestion, parking, noise, smoke, dust, fumes, vapors, gases, heat, glare, or vibration, outdoor storage, sanitary sewage disposal. So that's basically the background, and that's what's going to be presented tonight as for the project. And I'll turn it over to Bob to give his presentation.
Thank you. That is accurate summary. I think the section's actually 154 versus 54, though. It's 600-154 on the actual your ordinance. Absolutely an accurate situation. Basically, I'm going to do a quick screen share. Do you need to allow me to share my screen with you?
Yep, you did.
They allowed us?
I'm going to share it right now.
Okay, we're going to share. Can anybody see what we've presented?
Yes.
Yes, you're sharing.
Fabulous. Okay, that's the whole essence of this. We've had, as you know, a series of interactive discussions with the borough on this project, and the bottom line is, whatever the ordinance says, it says, but the bottom line is you need to like the project in order to accept it, and that's what we're trying to find out. We heard some very positive feedback on every meeting we've had to date. We have met with Andrew and the zoning officer and others in the officials, and we believe we have a project that'll really change this corner. Right now, what we have is a members-only fueling operation. I haven't really heard of these before. It's a non-attended site, which always makes me a little nervous when there's gasoline being dispensed without anyone physically present. It does run 24/7, and you have to have a membership to buy gasoline, mostly tanker trucks moving in to buy gasoline on the corner. Aerial, I think, does a pretty good job depicting it, and of course, it is flanked by other industrial type uses currently. And if you go up and down the block, and you certainly know your town real well, this one's called Pacific Pride, the gas station. You know, we have CMS transportation immediately to the right, and we have to the right of that a self-storage. Going to the left, we have the Granger Industrial Supply across the street, and a couple other operations of a similar nature. Next slide, if you would. The proposal is simply to put in a new generation 7-Eleven with fueling operations. As you stated correctly, Mr. Solicitor, the fueling operation would continue to move forward as a non-conforming use, but there's also a convenience store aspect. You have in your ordinance an allowance to have a convenience store by definition up to 5,000 square feet. This is 4,650 square feet, and we have 42 parking spaces proposed, which support the 1:125 ratio. We need 38 by code. We've provided 42. We believe we are in a good zoning compliance dimensionally. We'll have to go through any details on that. And if there's something we need to change dimensionally, we'll work with either a change or the zoning hearing board. But tonight's just a use discussion. You can see the fueling canopy in the front with the, we don't call them fuel pumps anymore, they're MPDs, multi-product dispensers, if you get the lingo down. We have those up at the front. We have the building at the back. One of the important things is there is a residential community, so we maintain the required 40-foot residential buffer to the rear, which would be a fully planted and fenced buffer. And our building and all our setbacks match the underlying ordinance. Basically, if you flip one more to the zoning slide, this is the LIB, Light Industrial B District. We've enumerated the site quickly on the corner. LIB District is a really interesting collection of different uses. You allow light industrial, you allow laboratories, you allow office buildings, banks. I mean, there's all kind of litany of issues that you can allow, but a convenience store is not specifically listed as a use by right. So the convenience store would be, again, a special exception, we're hoping. The current fueling operation, of course, is a non-conforming use. A couple images. This is not the 7-Eleven I'm used to from the old generation. We have here new images of 7-Eleven, all new branding, a little slicker, a little more contemporary. I mean, I think it's actually a decent looking building at this point. I don't like the old buildings, but these are good looking buildings. Again, we call it the new generation. So I only have the one topic, as your solicitor indicated, is whether or not, and the language is interesting in the code. It even talks about, within the code, it talks about whether the new non-conforming use or the new use will be more appropriate than the existing use. I mean, I think it's a matter of your judgment. If you think this new use will be more appropriate than what's there, I think what's there right now is industrial. It's not necessarily appropriate. I like the fact that we have a site with some life and some vibrance and some activity finally, and some jobs, as you indicated earlier, which currently aren't on the existing site. So that's the bottom line of my, turned into 3 minutes, my apologies. My quick executive summary, if I will. I can answer any questions, but again, it's just the use tonight, and anything beyond that as we develop the site plan to the next level will be, of course, a full land development plan. We'll be in front of the borough for land development. We'll be in front of, your zoning officer again, and the solicitor, your engineer, and of course the planning commission. So we will have to go through all those constraints of lighting and landscaping and everything else in the future. Again, hoping tonight we can get your blessing under the ordinance for use. I rest.
I like it. I like it. Alex, can we move to vote on that now?
Sure. We should probably entertain, I'm assuming, Andrew, that there are no members of the public that are on the Zoom or that have submitted questions in regards to this.
No, there were none.
Okay. Are there any other council questions that, either myself or Bob can address? Any other comments, any other statements before you would move to vote?
I always do.
Go ahead, Jason.
All right, so Mr. Lynn, not as it relates to exactly with what you're talking about here today, it's pretty straightforward, but I want to know if you just have any insight on this. I'm not really sure of the corporate structure of 7-Eleven, but will this affect the 7-Eleven that is in town, for instance? Or do they plan on moving that operation, that convenience store, to the new location, which then we would want to start thinking about filling up the old location? Or is that information that you don't have?
Jason, I would never give you bad information. I do not have that information. I believe that question was asked though several months ago. We started this dialogue back, I think, in June with the borough. And at that time, what I heard was there were no plans on vacating or changing the existing building, but I can't put that on the record as official because I really don't know that conclusively.
My understanding is that this is a corporate branch or a corporate store. It's not one of their franchise stores, which I think that the one at the top of the hill on Delmar Drive is. I think that's privately owned in some sort of partnership or franchise partnership with 7-Eleven. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So and I think that's a good question, Jason. My input on that would just be that the 7-Eleven at the top of the street is probably conducive to walkability for people in the village. I don't think that this particular 7-Eleven is going to cut into that clientele particularly hard. This is probably going to be people on the road, people who need gas. I don't think, there could be things that I don't foresee, but that's just my thoughts on it. Anybody else want to add to that?
I would totally agree with what you're saying. It's going to serve trucks, and it's also going to serve in walkability to Darby Township.
Right.
So, no, but I wanted to know if we're going to have a vacant building open soon. I like to start shopping them around.
Yeah.
And of course, most important factor is it's going to be very, very close for lunch and evening before meeting meals from the new Borough Hall location. We're all wise enough to put into place. It'll be started under construction soon. So,
Lizzie, for everybody.
Yep.
And I'd just like to point out, too, for the record, that, if the franchisee of the current and existing 7-Eleven would like to share their input or become a party to the proceedings, as Bob alluded to, this is just a change in use approval right now. There's also land development. There's also potentially zoning hearing board hearings on the matter for variances involved. The franchisee or any other member of the public has the right to become a party and or voice their comments during those hearings as well. So that's a concern that can be addressed down the line as well.
All right.
Correct.
All right. So, Alex, are we permitted to vote on this, and what should be the language for the?
Yes. So essentially, we've been treating this like a conditional use hearing, even though it's not technically required under the MPC or your ordinance. So essentially, what would you do? You would motion us you would motion to approve the change in use And then what I would do is I would draft a quasi order and decision granting the use if that's what you vote. And then I will send it out to the applicant.
All right. So I would like to entertain a motion for the change in use, non-conforming use of the property located at 1498 Delmar Drive.
I'll make the motion.
Can I get a second?
Second. I'll second.
All right. We've got a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited. I think it's a good development. As I said, this is the kind of thing all small boroughs need. I really believe that. So
I agree.
do the best we can to make it as attractive as we can, as we always try to do. So
Yeah,
appreciate it. And all the prior time, everybody in the screen, the 10 people in the screen have spent trying to work back and forth to make this a good project. So I appreciate all the borough's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob, before you get off the line, I just want to, if it's okay with the president, I wanted to jump ahead as it relates to the borough building.
Yes.
Hey, real quick, who seconded that motion?
I think Lee Daly, but I thought I heard somebody do it before her.
I definitely did put my 2 cents in.
She always does.
Sorry to interrupt. Just want to make sure I got that down.
All right. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
So, Bob, I'm sure you've heard about this, but it looks like we're back to another month delay on the borough property. I just wanted to relay that to you while you're on the line.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by that, but I mean, I am not as in touch as Mike Cosentino is. He's been really, on top of from our office standpoint. So, I mean, just because we're only the architects, but we'll get this thing done eventually, I guess, Jason. What is the delay? What's the delay currently?
Delay has to do with some paperwork that's sitting in Philadelphia, I believe, for the sewer usage. I would defer to Lisa on that. She can speak more eloquently, but we're waiting on Philadelphia to sign resubmitted paperwork that then needs to go, I believe, to the county and the DEP. So, and that paperwork has to be sent to the conservation department at the county. So I believe that's what we're waiting on. But of course, like I said, Lisa will explain to you how I fumbled that around.
No, it's more or less correct. That was pretty good, Jason. It's the Act 537. The paperwork had to be changed because of the change in the leadership, and we had it through Philadelphia, which it's very difficult to get the 537 through Philadelphia. I think we waited close to 15 weeks for Philadelphia Water Department to send their signed Chapter 94 determination over to us. Unfortunately, because we had to change the paperwork, we have to get everything reapproved. What Joe Rodo did was take not only the application, the revised application, but as well the previous approvals with their signatures on it, hoping that it would get resolved. We've already spoken to the county. Their environmental department has to sign off and is on board. Ann Stauffer will actually be doing the review and signing, and then we'll send it up to DEP. DEP said it will be on the top of the list. So we're hoping we're going to do the county concurrently, and hoping that Eric Ponda from the Philadelphia Water Department can get to it sooner than later. It's not even it's not even something he has to re-review. He just needs to put his signature from the first application onto the second application. So I'm hoping we can get that done sooner than later.
Like Bobby Heenan, could they be helpful in kind of moving that along, or is this just the amount of time it takes? There's nothing you can do.
Well, at first, because the city of Philadelphia, we put it in back, I want to say February of this past year. It did not go through Philadelphia until July
Of 2019 or 2020?
2020.
Okay.
So when it got to DEP, we had to get everything revised with the new president and manager signatures on it, or secretary, excuse me, signatures on it. So that's what we're waiting for at this point. I'm hoping, as I said, that it would be sooner than later. And I see Jim Burt's on the call. Jim, I also talked to Matt Kurse and let him know that you're probably going to have those same issues with your safe store, just so you're aware of that. Matt is also aware that he's got to keep on top of the water department.
Thanks, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, thank you, Lisa. Jason, I think I wanted to move the final land development approval up to the front of the meeting. Is that what we talked about?
Yeah,
Alex?
Think, Joe, are you ready to entertain the motion?
Actually, we just voted on the yeah, I think we're ready to say again. I'm not sure I understand.
In the motion for Safe Store, or does Safe Store have a presentation?
Actually, that's a good question. Safe Store, are you on the line?
Good evening.
How
Good
are
evening,
you?
everybody. Rob Lewis from Kaplan Stewart. I'm the attorney for the applicant for Safe Store. As Lisa just recognized, Jim Burt from W&A Engineering is on the line. We actually have Jim Bob McElroy also on the line, and Matt Kurse is here as well. We're more than happy to take up your entire evening telling you about our project. Or we will keep it incredibly short. As I'm sure you all have heard, we're eager to move forward with the project and really looking forward to being in the borough and really redeveloping a site that is in desperate need of redevelopment. So I will leave it to council. We are more than happy to put on a presentation where I can just summarize in 2 or 3 sentences and let the borough move forward.
Rob, can you just split the baby there and give us
Sure.
maybe more than a couple
Why don't I do
sentences,
this?
but not in that length?
How about, may I have permission to share my screen? I think I should be able to do this.
Sure.
With my poor internet connection here.
Yeah, some background might be helpful, obviously, because this project has started a long time ago and we've got new members of the council.
It was. So just as I try and share my screen here, I'll give the background. The property is located at 1505 Chester Pike. It's currently developed and actually has nearly 100% impervious coverage at the moment. The property currently has a car wash, a very large manufacturing warehouse facility, and it is not the best kept piece of property, certainly in the borough. About a year and a half ago, I guess Safe Store started the process of looking at the site for redevelopment as a high-end 103,000 square foot plus self-storage facility, climate controlled, interior loaded facility. Because it is located in the GB General Business District, self-storage typically was not a specifically permitted use. Self-storage also typically requires far less parking than any zoning ordinance ever provides. So at the end of, or actually I guess around September of 2019, we appeared before the zoning hearing board and obtained a use variance as well as a variance necessary for parking to permit the redevelopment for that Safe Store facility. Shortly thereafter, we submitted our request for preliminary and final land development approval. And we have been in that preliminary review with Catania's office since about December of 2019, culminating, I think, in a review letter that was issued in June of this year. This still has a few technical comments. As you heard from Lisa, she and Matt Kurse have been in pretty consistent communication. Any remaining comments in that review letter will comply from our end. We are hoping that council is ready to move forward and approve a resolution for preliminary final land development approval. And I'm gonna see if I can do this once quickly. I'm sure Matt has better, but if you can see that, this is an overview of the site plan. I believe Matt has done some revisions since I last loaded it onto my computer. At the top of the screen, you have Chester Pike. We have worked with PennDOT and obtained a highway occupancy permit for access to the site. The entirety of the project will be located within the existing impervious footprint, so you're not there's a net decrease in impervious coverage on this site, which is important because obviously there are riparian issues around the site. But again, it is a net decrease in overall impervious coverage from what exists today. And obviously we believe will be a dramatic improvement over the hodgepodge of buildings and facilities that are out there currently. So was that enough background for you for it, Alex, without overburdening you with a very long dissertation?
Yeah, I think that was succinctly stated, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
The only other thing, Council, I would like to highlight is today the applicant sent over, and obviously we forwarded you the final land development resolution draft proposed this morning, or probably this afternoon. But just wanted to make you aware that they did send over their waiver request letter for 3 certain waivers this morning. And I would like to kind of defer this over to the borough engineer, Lisa, to run through to see if she has any comments regarding those particular waivers.
Good afternoon. I did have the opportunity later this afternoon to go through the waivers. The riparian buffer waivers, I can recommend that council would agree to those based on the fact that we're actually going to be seeing some plantings done along that the edge of the stream bank, which we hadn't seen before in the previous. As far as the infiltration, I'd like to defer that groundwater recharge only until such time as we can get the testing done. We have, because this is a federal law, we need to be very careful in finding a justification for a waiver, and we haven't gotten to that point. I'm not suggesting that we hold anything up as far as a conditional approval. There are times where these infiltration tests aren't done until such time as construction is started. So that's something that I believe that if we do find that there is not available area for the groundwater recharge, that we can then circle back and give that waiver because we have the appropriate justification.
And I will put my engineer on the spot then, Lisa, and say, Matt, based on that response from Lisa, am I safe to assume that is acceptable, that if we obtain appropriate data indicating that in fact we can recharge, that we will be able to find that opportunity on site and modify the plans accordingly?
Yeah, that's fine, Lisa. We do have testing. We did additional testing as well to support that. But if you would like us to go out and do additional testing at the time of construction, I don't see that being an issue.
Okay, that's fine. And you know, what we've got, all we've got to look at is make sure that there isn't a place that we can put that groundwater recharge, because it is important to the water quality. So if it doesn't work, then we come back to this council and we say, and we can recommend to council to waive that particular section of the stormwater ordinance.
Okay.
So the deferral on that waiver is acceptable to the applicant. I don't see it as a reason to stall the remainder of the project at this point. Thank you.
All right, Jason.
Just in case anyone hasn't seen the blueprints, Joe, I think you have. The facility that they're going to build there is a dramatic improvement to the landscape and the look of Folcroft for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what's there now looks like a scene out of a horror flick. And so I mean, it's bad. It's pretty bad. So I like the green accents to it. It looks like there's almost a small park at the rear of it with green space, which I like. And I think that's a good thing. So, Alex,
and I'd be remiss if I did not at least point out the following. I have now done enough work with Safe Store that it is worth noting. This is not the self-storage that I grew up with, many of us grew up with, you know, the ugly orange roll-up doors and, you know, barbed wire everywhere, unsightly. These are state-of-the-art facilities. They're attractive from the street. They are well kept and they are fully interior loaded. So they're actually an attractive a piece to the community. Certainly not what I grew up with.
Will residents be welcome to use any picnic tables that are in that green space at any time? Is that something that they can do if,
I'm not sure how accessible it will be. It may be more of a visual than an accessibility issue simply because of our need for security on the site. But I'm sure a number of the neighbors in the adjoining residential may find
this
the
much easier to
opportunity
look at
be
than
out there. We can't encourage it for liability purposes at this point, but I'm sure it will be attractive to many of them.
Would you like me to share my screen? You can see what the building looks like.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's see if I can do this. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a modern building. It's meant to look like an office. Loading areas are not loading docks. They're basically sliding glass doors. It's generally manned by 1 or 2 people and during sales hours, and it's a key entry. It's a very good looking building.
It's a nice looking building.
Mm-hmm.
It is. So
It really is, actually. I like it.
yeah, I'm ready to vote. Jason, or let me ask the solicitor, are we ready to move forward on that? I think I'm ready to sign on.
I'll ask once again, Andrew, I'm assuming we didn't receive any public comment at this time, but are there any public comments related to this item?
That's a negative.
Okay. As long as the other councils don't have any other questions or concerns, I believe you're ready to move this to a vote.
All right, Councilman McGuigan, let's bring that up to the front of the meeting instead of waiting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution granting the final land development approval for Safe Store for the property located at 1505 Chester Pike.
Jason, can you restate that motion just with the word conditional final, please, to make sure we're being accurate?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution granting conditional final land development approval to Safe Store for the property located at 1505 Chester Pike.
Seconded.
Motion's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time.
Very much. We
Let's
appreciate
get
your
moving.
time.
Look forward to
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, Jason, you still on?
I am.
So explain with this. So does this mean we're ready to start construction on that? Where are we with this?
You want me to hold off till my report?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So I wanted to
We get
just
the,
so that everybody,
shares.
I mean, I know what it means, but anybody who might be tuning in, I'd like them to know what it means.
Okay.
And we'll we'll revisit that at the end of the meeting again, I guess. Are you okay with that? That's what you would prefer to do?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, can we get the shared screen off of here before the applicant leaves?
Did he already roll off? Is he? I think Jim's still on.
Trying to make an impression, I guess.
Let me see if I can reach him. I have cell phone number.
He doesn't need to hustle you guys anymore. You approved.
All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so moving on to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. You do have a copy of my report. We went through 2 items that are on the report. We are currently getting together the package for the subrecipient agreement for the community development block grant. I believe Andrew has those documents. They need to be signed. I need to sign as the construction signature for that project. That is the sanitary sewer project that we referred to a couple of months ago when we had gotten the award. The road program, if you notice, I know Councilman McGuigan may have noticed it. Our inspector was out today marking the streets, the extent of the paving project. We're expecting AF Damon to be out on the site within the week. Prior to that, he has 2 days notification. So each resident that's impacted by it will get a flyer at their home on AF Damon letterhead to advise them that they'll be milling and paving. For residents that may be listening, if we are milling, you will be able to access your property the day that we are paving, which typically is the following day after we mill, weather dependent, obviously. You will not be able to access your driveway. So if you do have any appointments, your cars will need to be out of the driveway by 7 a.m. Unfortunately, unless it's an absolute emergency, you cannot drive on the asphalt. If you do drive on the asphalt or walk on the asphalt while it's still warm, you will have oil or on the bottom of your shoes and on your tires, and it will get on your driveway. So just thought I would mention that because we've had situations where people will be calling and saying that they need to get out of their driveways. I want to make sure that the residents
Hey,
understand.
Lisa, they probably wouldn't do, like, for instance, Cricket Lane and Ashland at the same time, correct? They would do one street at a time.
They're going to do, what they'll do is they'll mill all of the streets and then they will pave all of the streets. So it really, the milling, the streets aren't, I don't see that it's going to take more than a day and a half to do the milling, and the paving will take probably 2 days.
All right, because I'm planning on parking in Councilman Willis's driveway around the corner, so.
There you go.
Yeah, he's got plenty of parking.
Sure
Yeah.
does.
I did report on the building and what's going on with the building. We are now on board, awarded the contract for the proposal for the sidewalk at the Amtrak station. I will tell you that today we scheduled the marking for the speed trap. So the chief and my chief surveyor and the maintenance crew is going to be out painting the lines on Monday. So we'll have that completed. And I believe that is all I have unless anyone has questions.
Well, I think we're good. Move on to finance and administration. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. I was muted. So on to public finance. Thank you again, Lisa. On to public finance and administration. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the bill list for the month of August 2020.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of August 2020.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'd like to motion to approve the August 4th, 2020 committee meeting. Are those the minutes, Andrew?
Yeah, sorry, if that's a typo. I have to reset my computer as always, so I can't look at the agenda right this moment.
So let me withdraw that initial attempt. I'll resubmit. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the August 4th, 2020 committee meeting minutes, as well as the August 18th council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept a permanent ballot box to be located at Borough Hall. It will be designed to, of course, collect vote by mail ballots here in the borough.
Second.
Discussion?
We could, yeah, if you'd like to discuss it, we could discuss before
What
the vote.
the security aspects they're taking? I believe is this inside or outside Borough Hall?
Andrew, do we have a,
The location can be adjusted. They want to put it outside of Borough Hall.
okay.
Do they plan on having surveillance? I know it was a discussion to have possibly have cameras outside, if they were outside, having solar powered cameras set up at these locations. Is there any discussion on that?
Not that I was made aware of.
I'm not opposed to it. How soon can we have this mailing box brought here?
They plan to install it by October 1st.
Okay. So Alex, would I motion to have council approve an expenditure for cameras, security cameras outside?
Mr. President, this was at the county's expense.
Right. Yeah. By way of background, Joe, we had this last night in Upper Moreland Township because Montgomery County and Chester County and all the surrounding counties are standardizing this as well. But Jason is correct. The financing, the entire layout would come from the county itself. There should be no cost borne by the borough in this situation. Any security measures that aren't physically there on the box themselves, which I understand are pretty extensive. It's almost like cracking a safe, essentially, as far as levels of security. If not, if you want to push for the cameras as well, that would be at their cost and expense.
All right. I mean, it can't hurt. Do we have to ask for them?
I would contact them if it's not readily apparent and if it's something that you guys would like to see there.
Okay. So I really don't want to wait, though, in terms of not having the box out there to receive.
Right.
Lisa's got a. I may be able to. I can tell you that based on the last 3 meetings that I've been, that this was discussed, that the surveillance cameras are part of the contract. So if you check that contract, you should see that. I will also tell you that County Council has already awarded a contract to put the concrete foundations in, not specifically at locations, but for necessary installations. So that's what has been relayed by various solicitors who have reviewed that contract.
And these will be able to be fairly easily moved to the new location when Borough Hall is moved.
Mr. President, sometimes when time-sensitive things like this and we have concerns, and I think Alex has heard them, can we make this motion contingent upon solicitor's approval? This way we have a little bit of area to go back and forth, but but we don't have to wait till an October meeting for this to happen. Alex, I'm sure you understand what I'm referring to, right?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Andrew, have they given you a contract yet? And if so, I mean, as soon as I have that, then I can contact to see if there's anything else that we want to do.
Not.
Say again, Andrew?
They have not given me a contract yet.
I know every county is doing this a little bit different. So if Delaware has that form contract out, we would want to see it. But yes, you can authorize the location contingent upon my review and approval of the contract.
Can I make that amendment to the motion, Mr. President?
Yes. Yes. Do I need to restate that motion then, Solicitor Baumler?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So withdraw the former motion. I'd like to entertain a motion for the placement of a permanent ballot box to be located at Borough Hall, that being contingent upon the solicitor's approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion
Guys,
carries.
Who made the motion? I only got Nick seconding it.
I did.
All right, we're good. Okay. So are you good, Andrew? You got what you need? Yep. Okay. All right. So I'd like to entertain a motion to call the Parking Permit Committee to order. Essentially, this committee will be charged with the task of devising permit zones. Me and Kyle have been working on that pretty diligently through the summer and before then, identifying where parking permits eventually will be required. Kyle, if memory serves me correctly, there's some, is it 1,512 houses that will be required to have parking permits?
I have completely forgotten those numbers off the top of my head, but that sounds about correct off of my quick rough estimation.
I think it was a little bit over 1,800. Lisa would know though, for I think potentially.
Did you mean Lisa Catania, the engineer?
I don't know that I have that off the top of my head, quite frankly. I appreciate that you think I could, but I don't recall. I'd have to look.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, that's really beside the point. So I'd like to call that, that committee to order. We need to get to work on that. We'll start naming people to that committee, of course. Can I entertain a motion to call that to order?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Anybody second? Can we get a second? I'm not allowed to.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let me move on to my next thing here. Sorry, my phone keeps closing. It locks up, so I have to reopen the phone to get back to my agenda, and I apologize for that. So I'd like to I'd like to entertain a motion to hire a new highway employee, although I'd like to maybe save this. I think that the highway, the Public Works, this should come from the Public Works Committee. Let's skip that. I'm going to leave that to Kyle to motion. So withdraw that motion. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize Solicitor Alex Baumler to draft and advertise an anti-nepotism ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, I'd also like to entertain a motion to appoint Sierra Coleman to our Youth Advisory Committee. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Lee motion.
I'll second.
It is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Joe, just a point of order. Do we have a committee, or are you creating one?
I'm creating one, but I mean, if you would prefer we vote on the creation of one, I can roll that back. You want to roll it back?
Just so that it's actually created and has a little bit more teeth, you should create it and then appoint, right?
Okay, I agree. I agree. All right, so let's withdraw the former motion. I would like to first entertain a motion for the creation of the Youth Advisory Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on again, I'd also like to resubmit my prior motion. We'd like to motion to appoint Sierra Coleman the chairperson of the Youth Advisory Committee.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to turn this over now to Councilman Willis from Public Works.
All right, so first, I'd like to make a motion to hire Neil Callahan as a full-time employee in the Highway Department.
So moved.
You've
Second.
so he's okay. We got a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
I'm sorry, before we move on, this may be more appropriate under new business, but we have approved a ton of permits tonight. And I just want to make sure that, I guess Mark could weigh in on this to make sure that they're going to be okay with all the permits that we just approved tonight, losing some staff.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be fine. We're ready. We're able to fill Neil. We got somebody ready. We're already ready to put in Neil's spot. We talked to Andrew this morning. Andrew reached out to Joe and let us know. We just I guess we need to know, the only thing we need to know is how soon Neil's going to be starting. That was the only question we had, and Andrew really didn't have a definite answer as of today, as of when we spoke this afternoon, which is understandable.
So,
But, we're ready to fill. Permit wise, yeah, we're fine. We should be, we're perfectly fine. And I talked to Andrew, and we were going to have a discussion about some things that I'd like to discuss regarding code anyway. And this week I talked to Andrew about. So we had some things lined up that we're ready to go move on. So we're good to go. So we're fine. Sorry.
Thanks.
Next item is talking about the returning to our street sweeping schedule. So now we have Sean Moore with CDL, which gives us the capability to do the street sweeping in-house. And obviously, I'm sure everyone has seen some complaints about state of streets and things as we've not been doing the street sweeping. So is everyone's thoughts on this? The only thing I would say is we need to work with Sean to make sure we have some sort of plan in place for sanitizing any hard surfaces that people are coming in contact with, any supplies that they're going to need for that. But otherwise, for me, I think it would be a good idea for us to get started once we have the staff built in to do that. What is everyone else's thoughts on this?
I think it's something we have to do. I think that not just for the sake of the streets, my growing understanding is that this also helps to keep our storm sewers cleared, over time. So the street sweeping is critical to that end. And so I do think it's something we should resume. I would like to maybe talk about what we're going to do about the penalties for the parking issue. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Because we're going to have to go back to, so are we going to go back to, fire and brimstone, writing tickets right away? Or are we going to excuse that for these next couple weeks and then next year start anew with strict enforcement of our parking ordinance?
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
So looking at this, I mean, I know you want to get back to that as far as with the street sweeper, but we got to remember as well, we have the gas company down there in the village, basically uproaring the whole village as far as there'll be certain streets that won't be able to be done, and people will be moving their cars to certain areas because of the gas company. I just want to let you know about that as well. Until the end of the year, they're supposed to do that until they want to get wrapped up by the end of the year.
Okay. So would you suggest that we relax penalties for people who don't comply while we're sweeping?
That would be up to you guys. Whatever you want to do, we can do it either way. It's just a matter of I just don't want people coming back and saying, well, you didn't go down my street, you didn't go down here, and the reason we didn't go down is because of the gas company being there.
Okay.
Joe, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that, Joe? Just go ahead and run it when you got to run it, clean as much as you can. But with all that's going on, I don't suggest enforcing anything as far as fines right now.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We need to do something, just as you said, with storm sewers, and as much as we can get done is better than the zero amount that we're getting done now.
Okay.
And I
All
was
right,
just, we
go
should
ahead.
relax since we haven't ran the sweeper all summer like we normally start in May. So I think we should just kind of relax, let people know it's coming down. So if they don't want their car messed, they should move it. But
So here's what we'll do. Andrew, if you could just put out the, are we all in agreement that we need to start this again? I mean, I want to start the street sweeper again. All right.
Lisa has comments.
What's that?
If I may, you are required under your MS4 to do street sweeping. That's one of the requirements. So you should start it as soon as you feel that you're capable of doing that. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that's one of the things that we'll have to put in the report, our annual report.
Okay. All right. So, we need to resume that immediately. Andrew, go ahead and put out a blast through all social media platforms that street sweeping will resume, and please ask residents that they need to be mindful of the parking ordinances or whatever the parking restrictions are during the dates of street sweeping. Don't mention anything about the relaxed approach, but of course we could do that behind the scenes. I mean, we want people to comply as best they can. Okay.
Okay.
Andrew.
Sorry, I was giving you a thumbs up, so I didn't have to go off typing. Yes, good.
Okay.
Good to go, Joe.
Andrew, before you go, is this second item here about what we've already discussed? And do we need to continue to discuss that, or?
Yes, it's about what we already discussed.
All right, so unless anyone I think we've covered that in the executive session, so we can that is all I have for tonight.
Okay, moving on to public safety, Councilman Ruskowski.
August 2020.
I'll make the.
No, the motion's been made. We need a second.
Second.
All right, Councilman Waters seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve the fire marshal's report for the month of August 2020.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve the fire chief's report for the month of August 2020.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Moving on to public health and literacy, Councilwoman Isaac.
No, nothing new.
Moving on to parks and recreation, Councilwoman Daly.
Just a reminder, Friday night is our movie night. 7:30, Barrel Hall Field. We're showing, I forget what it's called, something fire, something. Andrew, maybe you remember. If anybody can help, that'd be great.
I believe Catching Fire.
Yeah, John C. Right?
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to come down and help out, I think that we're going to be giving out some hot dogs and maybe some refreshments.
I'll be happy to come down.
Something we have left over from 4th of July, I think is what we talked about. And then my committee, I'm going to try to get them to meet next week. I am getting pushed to a community cleanup day. I'd like to do something by the end of the month. I'd like to have like a street captain, have people come out in their community on their street, get things cleaned up. So I'm going to work with a couple new people to do that. And then we'll start working on Halloween. But other than that, that's all I got going on.
All right. All right, very good. Who's going to be there Friday night? I'll be there. So
Try to bring my son.
Okay. Kyle, did you say you were coming?
Possibly. We'll see.
All right. More the merrier. Has it been properly advertised?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just make sure we keep that up. We want to get some good turnout.
Aside from driving around with a microphone in the car, which I think might not be a bad idea also, like the old days, announcing it. But
yeah,
there's plenty of social media stuff out there.
Good. Very good. So is that all you have for me, Councilwoman?
That's it.
All right. Very good. So I just want to roll it back a little bit to municipal planning and zoning. Councilman Waters.
I have no news.
Okay. Very good. Municipal legislation, Councilman McGuigan.
So we already did the Safe Star on that. So nice work.
Yeah, I wanted you to explain what all that meant. So for any public viewers, they would understand what we just did and where that carries us, what happens next.
So going on sometime back in early 2019, the borough was approached by a developer who wanted to turn the area that most people will know that's across from the diner on Chester Pike that has the car wash. I believe they have a kitchen countertop place in there and some small other tiny businesses, some that were no longer in business. Kind of an eyesore. I think we all know the area we're talking about. They want to turn that into an indoor storage facility, which looks a lot like, on a smaller scale, but looks a lot like what they've done in Ridley Township across from the Walmart. And I mean, I call it Eddystone, but I think the storage area is in Ridley Township. And it's a storage unit that is an upgraded version. It looks more like an office complex. It's built with glass, and it really does look sharp. They put up the drawing of it, and I think it actually revitalizes that area right there. And I know Lisa, the engineer, has worked pretty tough on what stormwater issues they would have there. And I think by the time this project is over, it's going to look better. It's going to be better for the environment. And it's an all around, it's a pretty quiet place. It's a storage facility, so there's not a lot of traffic that'll go to that facility, which is why we back in 2019 gave them the waiver on the parking. So it'll be a quiet, nice building that replaces what we have there. And I think that's exactly when you're talking about revitalization of a community. These are the kind of projects that between this and the 7-Eleven, these are the kind of projects that council appreciates.
So this measure tonight allows for what? Does it allow construction to begin or?
It allows them to
not
move.
yet.
I know Lisa and their engineer are going back and forth on some other waivers. There's a lot of we're finding out with our borough project, right? There's a lot of paperwork and things that come up. Lisa, can you speak on what other hurdles will have to be done?
We're gonna have a bit of a delay from this approval process to the actual. One of the things that's in the resolution, although not specifically, is there's third-party approvals. They did get their PennDOT approval, but they had to go to FEMA because of issues of where they're placing the building in the driveway. So they've been through the process with FEMA once. They are going to resubmit. I haven't heard from Matt when that's going to happen. It was supposed to happen about the third week of August, but I haven't seen anything. So I'm thinking it hasn't happened because of some of the waivers that they were requesting. With that being said, once they get the third party, which would be the DEP approval, they're not there yet with the DEP approval. I believe Andrew signed those, the Act 537 application to send back to Matt Curse. They'll get that done. Once they have all that, we'll be able to record the plan. I know Alex is working, and I don't want to speak for Alex, but I believe he's working on the agreements.
Yes.
There's a developer's agreement, municipal security agreement. The resolution speaks to the stormwater agreement. Once all of those are done, they can then record the plan. They'll have an escrow that'll have to be placed for the legal fees, for the engineer's fees, inspection fees, and then some of the municipal improvements. My best guess is this project will probably start. I would be surprised if they start in March or April of next year. That's what I'm expecting, just based on FEMA has, I believe it's 120 days to do a review. So if it hasn't come in or it's just been submitted, we're looking at December before they'll see anything.
And Lisa, I'll just add, my conversation today with counsel for the applicant, he indicated that allegedly their application is going to go in next week. So if that helps clarify the timeline at all. It's not in yet. Apparently it's going to go in next week.
But Mr. President, I will point out that what we've done today will mean that they will start applying for permits.
Okay, good.
They're
All right.
certainly capable of getting the demolition permits.
That'll be good. All right. All right. So do you have anything else, Jason?
Not under this committee.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the new construction committee.
So not to belabor the point, because we talked about it a little earlier today, but we've heard that we're looking at another month out. We had a pre-con meeting today to kind of set up dates where we could start to see where we could have a ribbon cutting ceremony and things like that. We're still a month out, so we can't nail that date down. We'll revisit that in October, but I can tell you that the 2 notes I had from council were addressed, and that is time-lapse photography of the construction and also the fencing off of the existing playground and putting up closure signs. They were the 2 notes I had from council.
Okay. All right. Are there any more curveballs that we should expect? Can the experts weigh in on that?
No, not necessarily a curveball, but this is something that we have to look into. I pulled the contractor aside. His lumber prices have gone up 132% from the time this job was bid. This job, everybody understands, was bid in the midst of COVID, where there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of contractors were trying to, we would get more favorable quotes for these jobs. Every day that we're coming out of COVID, every day that the supply chain seems like it's still affected from the effects of COVID, we're starting to see that the prices of supplies are going up. It's certainly something that, they are going to work with on their end. They understand their obligation under their quote, but I do want to make council aware that as these prices go up, it could affect the bottom line of this project. We caught a big break at coming in at 4.7 million, but I just want council to be aware that that is out there. That's in the ether.
Okay. All right. So I just want to, everybody just please hone in on this. If there's any other thing that you think that might come up that you can think of, let's get ahead of it now so that this is the last delay. I don't want to have any more delays. I don't want any more delays. So that's all I have on that. Do you have anything else to add, Jason?
Yeah, I feel like your frustration is mine about 3 weeks ago on the email I sent out. No more delays. I concur.
All right. All right. So moving on to the police chief's report.
Thank you, Mr. President and council. I just want to go over a little bit of stuff that's going on. Officer Zach Bennett had a nice arrest last week with a lot of meth that he took off the street from a car stop. So I want to give him congratulations on that. Our anti-crime unit has been working diligently getting certain houses that have been addressed to me as far as being problem houses, and we've knocked those out, the ones that I have. I did receive, we have that crime watch, and we're not all the way up and running yet. We're running, but we're not running at full steam as far as with all the residents and the cameras and all that stuff that we can register. But we are getting that some use out of that. We did get some arrests out of that. I don't know if you saw that or not. So that's been working pretty good. We had some tips come through about parking on it, which has been addressed and taken care of. And then also there's been also, I don't know if you've been getting complaints about kids with the wheelies and riding the bicycles. I stopped them tonight around 5 o'clock and got a bunch of the kids together and basically told them, listen, you can ride the bikes and everything, but I don't want you swerving in your cars or there's going to be consequences basically for that. So I did address that tonight with them. As far as COVID, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues except for the one. But I did get some email today about nationally, I think there's been like 282 COVID deaths for law enforcement, just to let you know number-wise what's going on in the world. And we've had a problem. I dealt with Andrew about a parking issue in town, and I pretty much, from what I can see right now, handled it. All the cars have been basically taken off the street that no longer belong on the street. And we're asking residents if there's any kind of problems, please dial 911 or get a hold of us on the crime watch about vehicles that are a problem. But we've taken about 6 or 7 cars off the street. So it's opening up parking, especially in the village. The only other thing that I have is crossing guards. We talked about crossing guards at the committee meeting, the crossing guards themselves, we dropped it to, we used to have 6 crossing guards. Now we dropped it to 4 crossing guards for the Catholic school. And we've dropped it to 3 crossing guards for the public school for the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday pickup. That's under the direction of Cindy Fry, basically getting back to me and saying, listen, we don't need this many. We can cut it down. And we're still evolving with that because we don't know if it's only 2 weeks in, but if there's parents that are sending more kids, we may have to go further, or we can take away some as well. So we're looking at that just to save the borough some money. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Cindy Fry, for looking after us in that regard. I appreciate that. Let me move to my agenda here. Is that, you said that's all, Chief?
Yes, sir. That's everything.
All right. Thank you,
I just
sir.
want to say thank you, Chief, for talking to the kids about the Papa Wheelies and swerving up like almost right to the car. Because it's not just our area, it's all areas. I remember driving with work and taking a client back to our site from an appointment, and kids almost came right up to our van. So,
yeah, I don't know if
thank
it's
you.
going to stop it totally, but I did stop and talk to them today, and I got a bunch of parents on Taylor Drive, basically almost in front of where the mayor's house is, and talked to some kids about that. So hopefully they listen. If they don't, we'll keep on reiterating our concerns for safety and go from there.
All right. Very good. Solicitor's report.
Nothing of huge importance going on. It's still very quiet as far as court activity and the like. I will just add to Jason's report regarding the building that I was in contact with counsel for the bank regarding the construction loan. We are working to finalize there's about 3 or 4 documents and agreements that we have to hammer out in order to finish that. So your loan closing for the bank portion should be fairly soon. And dovetailing with that, we also got the proofs of publication for your borrowing ordinance back from the paper for both the pre and the post advertisement of the ordinance, which means that your DCED approval application for the loan itself will be prepared and going out very shortly too. So your financing aspect will dovetail with your 30-day timeline on your other construction items. So everything should be good to go from the financing end as well.
Very good. All right. Is that anything else?
Outside of that, I have nothing else.
Okay. Very good. Moving on to the borough manager's report. Andrew, you there?
You want to do the finance director's report first, or?
Forgive me. Yes, I do. Joe, I'm sorry about that. Finance director's report. Let's take that first.
That's all right, Joe. You guys hear me?
I can.
Yeah, we have Thursday nights, the budget meetings. I'll have information, everything for, I don't know who's attending. Is it just the committee or the whole board?
No, it's got to be just the 3 of us. I can't have a quorum in the room.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll have everything ready for that. I'm looking forward to that. Everything's paid currently. We're not going to in pretty good shape. I'll explain that on Thursday. I'll have an actual to from Thursday's what, the 17th. I'll have last year through September 17th and this year through September 17th. So we'll see where we're at. The only difference you're going to see a little bit in the revenue. We're down a little bit in the revenue wise, like we had talked about. But if they get a vaccine or something, it seems like it's uptick and more people are going back to work. So we'll know in the next month or so. But that's the only thing that's lagging is that there could be earned income tax.
What percentage behind are we on?
I don't know percentage, right? Maybe 10, 12%. It's nothing drastic because we had a pretty good fund balance at the beginning of the year. Now with these projects coming to fruition, 7-Eleven, because I didn't have the 7-Eleven projected at the beginning of last year. So these projects coming in, whether they come in next year or not, they're going to be coming in. That's quite a bit of money we're going to get from permits and then reassessments. Now I do have one question I'm looking into now. I won't know, hopefully won't know Thursday, but with the reassessment at the county, I got to find out how they're going to calculate the mill this year.
We'll have to readjust that before we make any. Yeah, that's right. So we
Yeah, and
have,
so there's a we've always done it the old way, and I don't know if that's gonna work this time. And I haven't gotten a reassessment report on the borough yet to see what properties are affected higher, going up or going down.
okay.
So once I get that, hopefully I can get something for you on Thursday on that, and then we can see what we need, what we need to do. And then also the Delcora issue with Darby Creek and Muckapades, I don't know if that's gonna end up in court. So we gotta really try to get some projections of what our processing fee costs are gonna be next year.
Okay.
But all in all,
What, when you say something's going to end up in court, what,
well, I know, like Delcora is, the county council is pushing, is suing, they don't want them to sell to, out to Aqua.
right.
And I don't know the whole scenario of it, but Muckapades and Darby Creek are involved in that. And I just concerned what the processing fees are gonna be next year. And then finally, I just want to thank the chief. The chief's done a real good job with his overtime. It seems like the only overtime the police are getting is detail work, and we're getting reimbursed for that. For every dollar that we spend on overtime, we're getting reimbursed for in some of the overtime issues. So he's done a real nice job managing the police overtime, which has helped me out a lot.
Okay. Fantastic.
That's all
Thank you,
I
Chief.
got.
Joe, I'll just, to add one more thing on the Delcora situation with the lawsuit. Essentially, you guys should be able to treat business as usual, maybe for the next year and a half to 2 years. The litigation will stall things out, but at the end of this transaction, if it actually does, the challenge falls through and Aqua ends up acquiring that system, there's still essentially a year turnaround through Public Utility Commission approval as well. So you're probably looking at, because of the lawsuit and the delays that will occur in the transaction, we're probably looking at 2 to 3 years before there's a final resolution. So everything should hold steady until that point, until the sale change is over.
Alex, just because I sit on those two committees, that's not exactly true, because we're going to accrue a lot of lawyer fees out of both of those committees, which you know are divided up amongst all of the members of the DCJA, and those lawyer fees are pretty expensive right now for the Muckapades and Darby Creek to fight this battle. They're trying to take a role behind Aqua, but I mean, we are going to see an increase in the fees that we pay those both authorities.
Jason, I won't get too far into the woods on this as far as explanation of litigation too, but at the end of the rainbow, there is always a petition and motion for attorney's fees as well. So if they're successful in this, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to bear the entire cost of the attorney's fees.
I like the sounds of that, Alex.
Now, and it's no guarantee. Every lawsuit's different, but there will definitely be a push to offset the expenditure of fees, especially if they're the winning party.
And then Joe, I just, Mr. President, I have one more thing for Joe Pacini, if when it's
Sure.
my turn.
Yep.
Joe, have you received anything back from committees on budget capital expenditures?
No, nothing on that, nothing capital-wise yet. I'll defer to the president on that.
Okay.
So, Mr. President, the only thing, I know I added this before, and I know people are probably tired of hearing it, but this is an opportunity when all of these directors, whether it be the library, the chief of police, or whoever it may be, whether the borough manager, should be putting in this stuff. Nothing irritates me more than when someone brings up a $45,000 project in January after we approve the budget. It's just a pet peeve of mine. It'll be nothing personal, but if anybody does it, I mean, it's just something that irritates me, and I'm sure being chair of the finance committee, it'll irritate you as well.
Yeah, so that is a good point. Mindy, I think you had a project with the library. I think it was rugs. Memory serves me correctly, maybe a drop ceiling and the signage. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that everything? Did I remember everything there?
I think so.
Okay. So we'll make sure that's included. Do any other departments have any? I think, Kyle, you're going to have to probably put in a request. We're going to have to acquire some equipment. We have the worst equipment I've ever seen for a highway department. I mean, it's bad. So, and it needs to be. We need to start the process of retooling that department out.
I don't see any big capital expenses though, any vehicles, trucks and stuff like that. So
We're going to need, I think we're going to be looking into a backhoe.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
I mean, what would you consider as too
Well,
bad?
it's brand, not lately, the last few pieces of equipment we bought, we've leased, and it's been a payment over 4 or 5 years, and that's been relatively easy to budget. We bought the fire truck a few years ago outright, and I kicked myself. We probably should have financed it, but that's all paid in full. But the street sweeper, I think, was either the last payment was just made, or we have one more year, so that'll free up $40,000 right there. So there's not, and then I don't know if the police are going to come in for another vehicle or not. But we've been maintaining the police cars, and we saved on repairs and maintenance because our cop cars are pretty good shape.
Yeah, and I think we should continue that trend because I think we have a sort of a tradition. We buy one new car every year. We rotate the oldest one out.
Yeah, it's
or sell it.
whatever the chief says to us, but that works pretty well. And then, because this is like Jason said, the building, depending on what the costs go with the building, I want to make sure we have some money just in case it jumps from over what we anticipate getting as a loan. We just got to be, because we still got to get computers in there and furniture and all that other stuff.
Okay.
So I think you're going to find that your equipment budget for year one of the new construction building is going to be smaller than your maintenance cost to maintain this old one.
Right.
I hope you're right. I think that's a good point. I'm sitting in this room right now. I'm freezing in the building. It does not, just the climate control in this building's got to be a fortune. So, good. That's all good stuff. So is that all you got, Joe?
Yes, Mr. Council President, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to the borough manager's report.
Hey guys, so honestly, we covered basically everything that I would have discussed previously. So I don't have a ton to say. One point I think that we should start discussing related to the new hire in the highway department is that I believe we should start discussing posting a position for code enforcement. Actually, as long as Alex is okay with it, I don't know if it's a bad idea to do tonight. If you can make a motion to post a position for part-time code enforcement, this is actually replacing a position that we have not had since last year. So it's not just replacing Neil. It's just, I think, an insurance policy. When we go back to doing use and occupancy inspections, we're going to need to do, even though they'll be done differently, we're going to need somebody who can focus on code enforcement. So, we could post the position and then we could decide not to hire in October at the October meeting or later. But I think it would be a good idea if you guys motioned tonight to make that posting.
All right. I would certainly entertain that. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to hire a code enforcer.
Or to make so you're motioning to post for the position.
To post, yes, I'm sorry. To post.
But do we want to be specific on part-time or full-time?
Part-time, I think probably 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. Maybe say 3 or 4 hours a day. They could be flexible with the specific hours. I think the rate would be $15 an hour.
Okay. All right. Very good. So we have the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, let me get back into my, you're still on, Andrew.
All right, so this segues into the code enforcement discussion. I've been asked to put together a code enforcement report. As you may remember from last time, this month so far, we've written 100, and as of this date, being 15 days into the month, we've written 109 code enforcement violations in Folcroft Borough. If we continued at this trend, we'd be at slightly over 220 code enforcement violations for the month of September, which is slightly below last month of 284 for the entire month of August. Considering that we are still patrolling and investigating and going after violations at the same rate that we were last month, I think that may be some evidence that at least some of the issues that we found in August have been resolved for September. I personally have gone and checked in on some of these properties on several occasions. And so that's it. I've also been asked to do comparisons for previous years. In comparison, in September 2019, we wrote 68 tickets for the entire month of September. Lastly, Highway Department. Sean started on Monday. That's the person that you hired at our August voting meeting. Sean will be taking over for Danny on September 25th. I believe that's a Friday. Obviously, Neil would start, hopefully, not long, if at all, after that point. And I just wanted to reiterate that we probably still need one more person, and I hope to have that person by the October voting meeting.
Okay. All right. Very good. Is that all you got?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Very good. So, anything under old business?
Yeah, Joe.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to mention about the backhoe. You brought that up. They're going to need that for the salt.
Right.
And also, I had mentioned, I don't know, it's in the spring, down at the clock tower, the outlets we had put in for the Christmas tree lighting stuff, the ornaments and everything, the plugins, that cost us a couple $1,000. Well, when they put the new, they broke the wires.
When they
Also,
put the new, I didn't hear that. You broke up there a minute. When they put the new what on?
when they put the new payment in on the side, they broke the wires. They're dead. Also, the sign, they broke those wires too. I don't know if you noticed that sign's dark.
Is it the library sign or the?
No, the Rasmussen sign.
Okay. All right. So, Andrew, you're going to have to figure out how to get that corrected.
I didn't even know that. I'll look into that.
So
we're under a maintenance bond with the Community Development Block Grant Project. So we'll contact the contractor and work it out under the maintenance bond.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. We weren't aware of that.
Yeah, Mecca put the lines in, but also the sign, that wire is broken too.
Well, it's funny because I believe Mecca did all the work for Ernell, who did that project.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll check with Billy and Tony and find out what's going on. Let them know that they've got to get it repaired.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
On to new business. Anything under new business? I actually wanted to discuss the idea, and I've been approached by a couple people in the borough about the parking of their commercial vehicles. It's always been, as long as I can remember, a no-go. It was a non-starter that we did not allow commercial vehicles to be parked on residential streets, which I think it has its uses. I mean, parking is already at a premium. It's not something we want to see, a big truck taking up 3 parking spots where, hardworking residents could otherwise park their cars. So I was sort of brainstorming on the ideas, at least for the time being. The parking lot across the street from Borough Hall, I'm looking at it through the window now, is underutilized. And I wanted to know if how everybody felt about the idea of turning that into a permit by payment for working class people who have working trucks and need to park them in their municipality. It would keep them off the streets. Of course, it would be, first come, first serve space available. But I think it's something we should think about. There are people who work in the village that can't park their work trucks behind their homes. And we also really don't want them parking on the street. I don't know if the folks at Delcroft Shopping Center are working individual personal deals with people to afford them parking, but it is a problem that I would like to see us maybe brainstorm about. I believe that Eddystone Borough, and I'm just going off things I've heard in passing, I could have heard it wrong, but if memory serves me correctly, I think Eddystone Borough has a specific zone where they allow people to park commercial vehicles because it's a working class town. You're going to have people that they're going to need to be able to do that. I mean, we have space in the industrial park as well that I think maybe street space that we could use during, the evening into the early morning hours when people leave for work. But I think it's something we should really think about, and I'm looking for feedback on that.
I think that's a wonderful idea because I do think that it is not utilized enough, the parking lot across from where we're at.
Right.
And it would give a space. My concern though is, are people going to want to either walk down to get their truck if they can't have somebody drive them.
I mean, that part
They might be
is,
annoyed. They
yeah,
might be annoyed at that. That's my only concern.
I mean, I'm trying to find a place in the middle. Neither of us are going to get what we want, but we'll get something done. I mean, you know, you might have to drive to your car in the morning, or your truck rather. I mean, that's something that you might have to do. But I mean, what does everybody think on that? Any thoughts?
What's the liability on something like that? Not that it's in a bad location, but it's in a kind of bad location, right at the train tracks, easy to grab stuff out of someone's truck and rock and roll.
Right.
That would be my concern.
I think it's a
That
good
would
one.
that would also be a good point, Lee. Wasn't even thinking of that piece.
Yeah.
Right. You would be a de facto parking lot operation at that point. Let's just put it that way. So you could disclaim any and all liability for any, criminal activity or anything that occurs to damage on the vehicles on the premises. But at the end of the day, that doesn't stop the person that has the license from suing you and testing the theory in court. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Okay. Is there some way we can get some sort of a survey of space down in the industrial park where they may be able to park their trucks along the side of a road in that area? I mean, again, I don't want to cause traffic problems where large trucks need to get anyway just to do business, but they would largely be parked overnight in the evening hours until morning when people have to leave for work again. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with a solution for, more than a handful of people who have this problem.
Yeah, Joe, I would suggest in other municipalities that we've done this for, step one is to go out and get a survey of your entire borough and determine which streets are feasible for parking of commercial vehicles and which aren't, if you're going to go with the restriction in residential areas. Another key aspect that always comes up is allowing those commercial vehicles at least to be parked in a driveway as well. Some have gone as far as try and ban those in residential areas. That's usually a pretty terrible idea.
Yeah. I mean, the issue is that in the village, the driveways are small. You can fit two regular cars, but these vehicles their commercial vehicles tend to be long. So there's just not ample space for that to happen in some of the driveways for these folks.
Right.
And like I said, there's not an overabundance of them, but there's enough of them that, I'd like to see if there's something we can't do for them. So,
my question is, if someone has a commercial vehicle and you're going to do parking permits anyway, and you limit it to trucks the size of a Silverado or an F-250 or whatever F-150, whatever you came up with, and you charge them a commercial permit rate, why couldn't they just park on the street for the smaller trucks?
So you're saying that some of these commercial trucks are about the same size as a Silverado or a regular personal vehicle?
I'm saying that, yeah, the difference between someone's personal vehicle and a commercial vehicle is a sticker sometimes. And I think that's where we might want to be more forward thinking on what we do. If you're driving a Silverado or you're driving a Silverado that says Jay's Landscaping, I mean, what really is the difference?
Okay.
If you instituted a commercial permit portion to your permit committee and maybe they discussed it, I mean, I don't see why that would be a terrible thing.
All right, that's good thinking.
Joe, wouldn't we have to change the parking order
I like that idea.
for commercial vehicles?
I think we may, if we did it Jason's way, we would change the ordinance to allow commercial vehicles maybe of a certain size, but
because I had the elevator van with Otis elevator on it, and I got my stones busted constantly.
Right.
So I got magnetic stickers to put over it, and then I was told you got commercial tags, and it was the same size as the car.
Right.
So that was in the ordinance.
So yeah, I mean, if we did it, we would have to adjust the ordinance, which I'm open to, because those cars are going to have to be permitted anyway for street parking. So then Jason, that makes a good point. We might actually have an adjusted fee schedule for those vehicles, the permit charge. So if it's a commercial vehicle, the annual permit charge might be more.
Correct.
So, yeah, we would, the answer to that question is yes, we would have to either repeal and replace or adjudicate the current parking ordinance. Am I right, Alex?
Yeah, I was on mute. Yes, absolutely. You would have to modify, and it might just not be the parking ordinance. We'd probably have to look at nuisance and a couple of other aspects of your code of ordinances too.
Okay. All right. All right. So I think that was productive. We'll continue to explore that and do some more research. Do we have anything else under new business? No one? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Do we have a second? Motion has been made by Melinda Isaac. Sounds like it was seconded by Councilman McGuigan. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Good night,
Everyone have a
Good
good
night,
night.
everybody.